On this Memorial Day, we honor heroes past and present, those who have fought in different ways to preserve justice and freedom. NBC's Alexis Glick is here with one remarkable story of courage and persistence. Alexis, good morning to you.
Good morning, Lester. Well, more than 40 years ago this summer, idealistic young men and women from around the country went south to register voters, soldiers in a battle for civil rights. In June 1964, 3 young men were murdered while fighting for their cause, a case that sent shockwaves throughout the nation and has still yet to be resolved. I recently met with 3 high school students who are fighting to right that wrong. This is the story of 3 suburban girls from Lincolnshire, Illinois, who turned a classroom project into a cause.
Last Saturday morning, June 20th at 3:30, Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner left Oxford for Meridian, Mississippi.
By night, they had vanished. 3 young civil rights workers, Michael Schwerner, James Cheney, and Andrew Goodman. Names now seared into American history.
They paid the fine and I released them and escorted them to their car, and they got in their car and left.
A month and a half later, after an exhaustive search, their battered bodies were found in a dam in Neshoba County.
Strange fruit hanging from
that my brother was beaten, his nose was broken, his limbs was broken, his rib cage was broken, his collarbone was broken, and his skull was cracked in.
In 1964, 19 men were arrested in what became known as the Mississippi Burning Case, the basis for a well-known movie.
And there ain't a court in Mississippi that'd convict me for it.
3 years later, only 7 were convicted, not for murder, but of lesser federal crimes. Reverend Edgar Ray Killen, a reputed KKK leader, thought to have orchestrated the killings, was set free. His trial ended in a hung jury. Now, more than 40 years later, these men have unlikely new champions, girls who were stunned that justice has still not been served.
You don't usually get 3 suburban white girls outside of Chicago calling a bunch of civil rights veterans to ask about their work from 40 years ago.
With their history teacher Barry Bradford leading the way, Sarah Siegel, Brittany Sawtell, and Allison Nichols researched the case for a National History Day project and produced a 10-minute documentary.
If they're dead, I feel like they asked for it.
What was it that was so appealing about telling this story?
That was really appealing to think, look what young people can do, and wouldn't we like to try to do something just as great to help people just in that same way.
They took their documentary to former freedom fighter Congressman John Lewis, went to the scene of the crime, Philadelphia, Mississippi, and met with the murdered men's family.
Now, 40 years later, here are 3 more young people who care about the same issues her son cared about and who are trying to do right by him.
With their teacher, they interviewed key players from the case, including Edgar Ray Killen.
They were trying to undercover recruit the young blacks for the communist movement.
We were very surprised that he was actually willing to talk so freely about what happened. He still retains his views from 40 years ago.
Allison, Sarah, and Brittany insist they are only a small part of a large effort. With help from many dedicated Mississippians and Congress, which passed a resolution, the case was reopened.
It proved to them that they can make a difference. It showed them that you don't stop until you reach your goal, and that an ordinary kid can do extraordinary things.
In January, Edgar Ray Killen, now 80 years old, was indicted for 3 counts of murder.
Mr. Killen, were you involved in these murders?
Changing major historical events is not as hard as it might seem. It merely takes will and dedication to do it.
The kind of will and dedication which took 3 young men down a dark and deadly country road in Mississippi all those years ago.
You ask yourselves, could I be that brave? Could I be as brave as those 3 men?
Knowing the risks involved and knowing that so many people are going to be against you to an extreme, I don't know if in reality I would have done it.
I'm not sure if I would have been brave enough, but I hope that I would have done it anyways.
2 weeks from today, Edgar Ray Killen goes on trial in Philadelphia, Mississippi for the unsolved murders of those brave young men, proving that it may never be too late for justice to be served.
Some remarkable young people. Thanks for sharing their story. Alexis Glick, appreciate it. We'll be back with much